everyone. We are doing another podcast. My name... What was that?
Keep going. I promised last episode that I'd be wearing a different shirt, so give me a sec. You just keep going.
Okay. Well, it makes it a little bit difficult when I'm trying to give an introduction to a person that's not here. But my name is Freddie Hernandez, and you may know me as Tavarish if you're on the internet as much as I am. Joining me is my friend, my partner, Mr. Andrew Howell, and he is actually replaced by an empty seat. Look at that. So how you doing, Andrew? That's great. So today I wanted to talk about a few things, namely something we didn't get to talk about in the last episode, namely the things that...
Namely or mainly?
Mainly and namely, yes. So there's two facets of this conversation. So I was thinking about what people don't tell you when you do a big swap on a car. Like if you do an engine swap, because people think that, oh, I put an engine swap in my car. I change out the engine and it's just going to have more power. It's going to be a little more efficient, or, it's going to have a different exhaust note or something like that. And then that's the end of the story. But it's not, because there's a lot of caveats that come with stuff like that, like manual swaps as well. If you do any sort of forced induction, there's trade-offs that you definitely have to make on top of the money that you have to pay if you're paying a shop, or if you're doing it yourself. You should be doing it yourself, by the way, because it's so good. So I've done a few engine swaps in my day, and what I can say about doing engine swaps is that unless the car that you're taking the engine from is almost exactly like your car, you're going to run into issues with wiring.
Yeah, you're going to, well, not just wiring, but you're going to have a lot of work just in general.
Yeah, just in general. Yeah. So, engine swaps are not for the faint of heart.
No.
They're about an 8 or a 9 out of 10 for even seasoned mechanics. Like some people just don't know their way around custom parts and modification and stuff like that. But let's say you have all that down pat and you get the engine in. I remember I did a engine swap in a... I almost wanted to say Lamborghini. Engine swap in a Nissan Maxima. It's basically the same thing. Mine was... My Maxima is white and the Lambo is white. That's why, I get them mixed up all the time.
Literally the same.
All the time. It's the same thing.
Mm-hmm. Dude, you know what? My Mini Cooper is white, so it's basically the same thing as your Lamborghini.
So you step inside and be like, is this a Mini Cooper?
No.
Is this a Nissan Maxima?
Wait, is it Lamborghini? What is this?
I don't know. I think they don't even have like Lamborghini badges in that car. It's insane. Like there's no branding. If you want to talk about a car that has no brand awareness at all, it's a Lamborghini. Italian brands in general don't really have strong branding.
But do you need to know what it is when you're the one driving it?
No.
Okay.
So, let's get back on from that tangent. So, I did a manual swap and also a 3.5 liter V6 swap on my Nissan Maxima, which had a 3.0. And the saving grace of that was the 3.0 and 3.5 were similar enough that they can use the same mounts. So I didn't have to make any of my own mounts.
That's good.
Yeah. That was really cool. The only thing is the timing had to be taken from my 3.0 and put on the 3.5, and then there were like custom adapter plates for the cams, because the cams themselves they were like in a different orientation, and that meant that I couldn't use the VVTI, not the VVTI, the variable valve timing in the new engine.
Does Nissan have a name for that? Now it's like blue something.
It's blue something,
right? Blue.
It's blue steel. That's what it is.
There it is. Blue steel.
It's blue steel.
Wait, we got to do it at the same time. Ready?
Yeah,
3, 2, 1.
Okay. So Nissan has blue steel, and no, I don't think they probably have VCDS or something like that, right?
VVCDIS.
VVCDIS. Yes, that's right.
V.
Vivisection, right? So
what?
No. Do not look that up, please, for the love of God.
Vivitar. It's Vivitar.
Vivitar. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So I couldn't use that on my swap, which meant that the power output wasn't as good as a stock 3.5 liter.
Nice.
That car, that engine stock made 265 horsepower. And the engine that was coming out, the 3.0, that made 190. So it was a big delta. It was a big 75 horsepower. But when you don't have the variable valve timing, you're somewhere around the 240, but that's engine horsepower. That's not, at the wheels.
Gotcha.
At the wheels, you'll be looking at maybe 200, 205, something like that.
So you're getting like an extra 15 horsepower to the wheels. Oh no,
No,
because that was 190 at the crank. Right?
Yeah. So you're probably getting one. I want to say like 140, 150.
A blazing fast.
Yeah, listen, for an 18-year-old, that was the fastest thing in the world. And you're saying like, I can get more power, and I can have an engine swap, and I'll have all the street cred, and basically tell people that you have a 350Z engine. Sign me up.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you had a Maxima SER.
Yes, Maxima SER. It's exactly basically what it is. So the thing that nobody tells you is that there are things on newer engines or different engines that don't line up with if you're using the stock wiring harness, and you will be if you don't have much money like I didn't. So stuff like the idle air control valve.
Oh, I was gonna say connectors.
Connectors are so usually if you're doing Nissan to Nissan or Toyota to Toyota, sometimes they have the same connectors. A lot of the stuff kind of bolts on, or you can just reuse some connectors. You can repin them. That's not too big of an issue because you're gonna have to do a little bit of wiring
right
when stuff happens. Because I know the Maxima had two thermostats for some reason. The newer one, because there's one on one side of the engine that had thermostat to go to the heater core, and then another thermostat for the engine itself. It was weird. So there's like two potential bottlenecks, but the older one didn't have that. So you have one of the things you have to do. You have to take your coolant neck and kind of just put it on the Maxima and put it on the newer Maxima engine. So the interesting thing with that swap was that the block is exactly the same size. So it's just the bore and the stroke that were changed.
Right.
But the block is exactly the same. All the mounts line up. All the accessories line up. So that was a really good thing. But people were like, "Oh, this is all bolt-on. This should be good to go." But it's not. It's definitely not. So things that don't work, idle air control valve. That's something that a lot of people, if you don't have money or you don't have a standalone, that probably won't work. Which means that when you start the car on a cold start, you gotta give it some gas. Otherwise, it's gonna die. Because what the ECU does is it enriches the mixture. It makes it super, super rich to warm up the cats and do all this stuff. But if you have an engine swap, it doesn't know that. It thinks it's just a regular engine. So you have to give it a little bit of gas for like 30 seconds to a minute. A little bit annoying, but that's something you have to live with. Another thing that might happen is loss of certain sensors, like the coolant temperature sensor.
Yep.
You have the tachometer. Sometimes the signals don't line up all the way. And just drivability issues like that. But then you have to worry about the actual engine mapping. And that actually applies more to 5-speed swaps, manual swaps in general, because when you have a manual swap and you don't have a manual ECU with it, and sometimes you can't get an ECU because it has to be coded to the key, and then they want, if you go to a dealer and they want to make sure that it wasn't from a stolen car and blah, blah, blah. Like, oh, do you own this? We can't do this, and we have to order it new. Yeah, so sometimes you're screwed on that. But if you want to use the automatic ECU, a lot of times what you do is you just you just bridge the pins on the neutral safety switch so you can start the car. Neutral safety switch is. I'm getting really, really geeky right now. I apologize if I'm losing the audience. So when you do a manual swap, you have to have the car essentially know how to turn itself on. In a regular automatic car, it won't turn itself on unless it's in park or neutral, and it knows this by a park or neutral safety switch. It's a little switch inside the transmission, and it lets you know what gear you're in. If it's in reverse or drive or anything else, it will not start. And that's good because you don't want to start the car and whoa, yeah, that's bad. So when you're doing a manual swap, you have to still, and you're using the same ECU and the same wiring harness, you have to let the car know that it's essentially in neutral. So since the manual transmission doesn't have any gear selectors other than reverse, what you have to do is there's a park neutral safety switch. It's usually 2 wires. And you just put a paperclip. It's super easy.
How roadkill of you?
You could put a paperclip, or if you want to be extra fancy, you can actually wire that up to a clutch switch. So it'll work like the regular, like a regular manual wood. So you have
Clutch to start.
Yeah, clutch to start, which I don't really like. My Lambo actually doesn't have that.
Yeah, I miss that about my RX-7. I don't like it about the ST really.
It's actually better for your car if you don't start it with a clutch. It's a new. I mean, most manual cars have that. You have to press down the clutch to start. I don't like when car companies try to save you from yourself. Like, listen, if I'm driving this car, I'll know. You know, I'll know. It's not going to be like, oh, I gotta go to get some milk. Oh, you know.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things that nobody tells you about the manual swaps is that you have every once in a while you have drivability issues. And the drivability issues are only on deceleration because the fuel maps are such that when you decelerate to a stop, it's expecting that the transmission does a little bit of that work for you and it goes down into the first. When it doesn't see that, it basically bogs and the engine can cut out. So that's something that people either have to get used to, you have to give it a little rev, or you can adjust the idle screw or something. But that's something that a lot of people don't notice when doing stuff like this. So my wife just came in to get the dog. All right. So people don't know that's normal. But other than that, it's also a thing where there are certain, like the car revs differently. The car revs differently. It gains speed differently. And it feels like a completely different car, which is a good thing. But sometimes you can get codes that just won't leave. You'll get check engine light codes and stuff like that. But I think that's something that people usually don't know.
Yeah.
And let's say if you do an LS1 swap in anything, because you can put an LS in anything, right? Usually, if you don't have a wiring harness that can accommodate it, or you don't have a custom wiring harness to your application, there's going to be some caveats. You're going to need a tack adapter. You're going to need stuff like I don't know. You're definitely going to need something that has OBD2 readiness because in a lot of states, not Florida, of course, but you have emissions inspections. Mm-hmm. So there's weird rules about that, and
that would be like it's already hard enough to swap a motor. Like, why would you do that in a state that requires
like
inspections?
In California, it has to be carb legal, and that comes with a whole different. Like, you have to have not even aftermarket cats. Like, you have to have the cats that came on that engine. It's insane. Like, so you have to make those work somehow.
No thanks.
Yeah. So I mean, here it's just the Wild West. It's like, well, I got four wheels, sort of.
Wild East.
It's a wild East. That's right. It's a wild Southeast. Man, I love it here.
It's so good.
It's just the best.
Man.
I wish we had a little better roads, but we have
better roads in that, like, fewer straight roads.
Fewer straight roads. Better driving roads. Better roads where you can.
It's fair.
Yeah. So, what things, like, what's the most extensive work you've done on a car?
Me personally?
No, you figuratively. Huh. The collective you, the royal you.
I would say the most extensive work that I did to one of my cars was replacing a valve cover gasket. Okay. I guess that would be the most invasive. I've only pretty much ever done, like, basic bolt-on modifications and, like, basic maintenance. I've never really had a chance to kind of really dive in. And
sure. So you are a really good candidate for a lot of this stuff.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, this is awesome. It's young Padawan here. I mean, I'm not talking about like I'm an old Jedi master. Believe me, I make so many mistakes. This Lamborghini is going to be some of this. You're going to be like, what are you doing?
Up until recently, I've never had the money to really buy modifications for cars. So
sure,
it's kind of I've always been into cars. I've always been a car nerd.
Right.
It's just up until recently I've never had the means to or the reason to work on a car other than maintenance. So
yeah, that's very fair. So wow. One of the things that really get people out of car culture, out of modifying their cars, is the money. But how much money is like what's too much money for you? Like let's say I want to have a mod for my car. Like it's something that I wish for my car build, but what's the break point for you? Like is it I can go not eating for a few days, or like I could is it something like that, or
no? So I try not to put myself in an uncomfortable situation. What I do is I set aside money and I just save up until I can afford whatever part I want.
It's weird. What we talked about this in another episode. I usually save money and then I buy things. Like, but what if you want to buy them now, but you don't have the money?
Yeah. I'm not a huge fan of the whole credit card thing.
Yeah,
I try to build my credit in other ways.
Okay, cool. So the thing that got me is actually the thing that attracted me to working on my own cars is just the fact that I didn't have any money. It's just the fact that I wouldn't say I grew up poor, but it definitely wasn't rich. It was just middle class.
Yeah.
And if you have a car and you're trying to impress people, like you are apt to do when you're
at 16
late, late. I was a late bloomer. I got my car when I was 18.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So
does it mean I've been driving longer than you have?
You probably have. So you have some experience on me. You definitely do.
Up there on the roads of Florida.
Exactly. Straight roads of life.
Yep.
So when you have no money and you're kind of struggling for every, when you go, that feeling when you go to the gas pump and you only got like $5 and you're like, crap. You go to the guy and tell him, can you put like $4.50 on there? So that, just to get me home. But I've had that as like $2 or something, and that'll get me home. That's like it's a gallon,
Ish.
It's a gallon.
It's only 5 miles to home. That'll give me like 25 miles.
Yeah, it's good for today and tomorrow.
You start budgeting miles.
Yeah. I mean that's you don't want to be in there in that spot and also trying to do car mods, but I was there.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a fun place to be because you have nothing basically to lose, but you have there's a lot of I had to think of mods that were very cheap, but nobody has done. So one of the things I did on my Maxima was I put a gauge cluster from a newer Maxima in there, which is harder than you think because the bezels were different, the engine was different, but I figured out that I could just they were different, but they were similar enough that I can just basically take a wiring diagram from the newer one and the older one, and then just splice like 55 wires together. And I'm like, and then I did it, and it worked. And I'm like, oh, look at that, I did it. And all I did was I bought a cluster for like $30 on eBay.
Nice.
Yeah, and I got a new cluster, and it's never been done before.
Heck yeah.
Or something like take G35 windshield wipers, and if you know the G35, it had the sprayers inside the wiper. Yeah, which was really cool. I'm like, I want that for my car. So you get windshield wipers for $20, $25, and then you do it. You do the mod, and it works, and you do stuff like that. Just little things like that, and then it's like you have a car that is unique, and you're like, whoa, how'd you do that? Well, it's because I didn't have any money. Let me tell you a story about overdraft.
Yeah, I've been there. I've absolutely been there. I think that the most expensive modification I've ever purchased for any car I've ever owned were actually the wheels that I have for the ST.
The wheels you have for the ST. So let's talk about the wheels. Let's talk about wheel selection a little bit, because wheel selection tends to be one of the big splurge mods for a lot of people.
Oh yeah.
Even though tires are actually the cheap out mods. For a lot of people,
you spend all your money on your wheels.
It's weird. It's so weird. Like people spend so much money. Yo, you need real like TE37s. You don't want those knockoffs. Then you have like Nankang tires on them.
Yeah,
like that makes no sense. Okay, so what was the process in getting those wheels? You just
So the only place that I found that I could get those wheels, the only OZ racing dealer that I found in the U.S. was TireRack.com.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to go through them.
Shout out to Tire Rack if you want to sponsor this podcast, and I'll let you, boy.
Yeah, I've already given you a lot of my money.
I think everybody's giving them a lot of everyone money. I think it should be nationalized at this point, just National Tire Rack.
Yeah, right. So initially I was looking at either a set of 1552 Turbo Max, or a set of Koenig hypergrams.
Ooh, the Koenig hypergrams are really nice.
They are pretty cool.
Yeah.
Pretty sweet. Yeah, pretty sweet. I decided against the hypergrams because even though it's just an ST and not an RS and not all-wheel drive, I wanted to rock the rally look.
Mm-hmm.
Because let's face it, even anyone with an RS, they're not going to take it off-road.
Yeah, but it's the same thing as a V-dub having deep dish wheels in the back when it's a 1.8T front wheel drive.
Right.
It's just about the look.
Yeah.
But your wheels weren't just about the look. It's also functional because they're 18x8 all around, right?
Yeah, so it's the same size as the stock wheels.
Okay.
So I could switch over my really crappy, super cheap tires off my stock wheels.
So so it happened to you. So you got
the life.
How much were your wheels, by the way?
They were 1,200.
They're 1,200. Okay, so 1,200 that's more than I would spend on wheels. But thankfully, I buy cars where people already do the spending on the wheels.
And all you have to do is get them powder coated.
Yeah, I don't even have to do. I mean, I could have just given them a Plastidip job and that's it. But
it's a Lambo.
I want to be fancy. I want
to be fancy.
fancy.
So fancy. Oh my.
So $1,200 is a lot of money to spend, and especially for people that have a car payment or they don't have a lot of money. I mean, if you would have asked a 18 or 19 or 20-year-old or 20, 30-year-old me now, would you save up money to buy wheels for $1,200? I'd probably say no. But it's weird. Like, I have the mentality of I'd rather get better tires than I would wheels. Like, the wheels don't matter as much as long as they don't bend and they're not like the heaviest things in the world. Right. Look okay.
Right. So the thing with me and wheels and tires is that the tires, though they may be cheap Chinese doo-doo, they will serve me for a while
Yes.
I recoup from spending all the money on the wheels.
That's true. But your tires are the only thing touching the ground. Nothing else touched it. The only contact you have from the car to the earth is through those tires.
Yeah, but they work.
Well, they work. I mean,
and it's not like I'm out there trying to win races.
It's not. They won't not work because gravity's a thing. Like, it's not like,
right. And we don't get snow.
They can't
here.
not work.
We don't get snow down here either, so that's another factor.
Yeah. But are yours your summer tires, correct?
I have no idea. They're just awful.
What am I, Mr. Goodrich?
Yeah, they are iron.
Listen, man, I just drive the thing.
They're Iron Man eye moves.
Iron Man eye moves. So those of you out there, look up Tire Rack Iron Man eye moves, and we'll look up the reviews for them and see.
I think that they were just the cheap tires that the dealership from which I bought the car were just like, the car needs tires. Let's do $30 as a tire and put them on there. Okay, go.
There you go. Yeah, that makes sense. But I actually have a deal with Michelin in which they graciously supply me with some tires. So perhaps we can make a deal with your.
I would be okay with that.
Yeah, we get some nice Pilot Sport PS4Ss or something.
And then I could have proper wheels and proper tires.
Yeah, wouldn't that be nice?
Wouldn't that be nice to drive on tires? Ones that weren't cheap Chinese crap. And that's why I never sing in front of people.
Well, I actually did have the Iron Man eye moves on my no, not the Iron Man eye moves. It was like Iron Man something on my dually, and those were they rode not great. And then I replaced them with Michelin's, and it's just so much better. Michelin,
they've been around for a while.
Yeah,
they know what they're doing.
Yeah. So, well, there's another thing I wanted to talk about, and we'll get to that in the next episode. Actually, it's about. It's kind of a segue from what we were just talking about. So you just mentioned Michelin, and Michelin actually invited me to the Michelin Pilot Sport Experience. Michelin Pilot Experience, something like that. So it's in Sebring. Sebring is in South Florida, well, south of us.
Yep.
And it's a very, very beautiful racetrack, and
very
basically
historied racetrack for sure.
Yes. So the event is going to be racing around with like supercars, something like that. Racing on the track with their tires, but other competitors' tires as well, so we can see the
difference,
see the differences, and and it's supposed to be, it's a PR thing. It's a press event. So Michelin, what they do is which is what a lot of companies do. They try to wine you and dine you. Right?
Oh yeah, of course.
So you go and they set you up in a super nice hotel, they a lot of them pay for if you have airfare. I won't have airfare, but because I'm right here. But they set you up with business class, and they pick you up from the airport. They have a little plaque with your name on it. It's like a full experience. It's just the best. And a lot of journalists with air quotes, they try to milk this for as much as they can.
Of course.
Right. So they try to have free vacations like all the time, and all they do is give like favorable reviews to these things. So when I was with Jalopnik, I had a bunch of these press events, and you always see the journalists who were just there just to, when's the dog sledding? When's the ice sculpting?
So you're here to review the new Maserati, right? Yeah. But like, where's all the free food? Do you pay me? Like, how's this work?
Yeah. So do I get a check or
when's the foot massage?
Right. So the thing about Michelin is that these events, quite famously throughout the automotive industry, or rather, the press, kind of everybody involved. These Michelin events are off the hook. They are like just the best, because Michelin, it's not just Michelin tires and like cool cars and they run out of track. It's Michelin star restaurants by Michelin star chefs. They have like
Michelin.
It is 100%. Yeah. Michelin rated hotels. It is they give you like a suitcase full of swag. Like they give you like shoes, and like there was a post a while back. I think it was Matt Farah or something, and it might have been Matt Farah, it might have been somebody else. I apologize, Matt, if that wasn't you. But he basically emptied the contents of everything that they gave him in that one. It was their last pilot experience.
Okay. And
he just took up the entire bed. It took up the whole bed. It was like, this is everything they gave me, like shirts, shoes, and all that stuff. And that's what it works. It definitely works if they go like, oh, this is our gift to you. This is our gift to you. And I'm not saying that it's shady. I'm not saying it's underhanded, because they're a good company. I like working with them. But I told them right off the bat, like, listen, I don't need that stuff. Like, I can take my own vacations. I don't need to be wowed. I'd rather go there, and I want to talk about the tires. I want to drive cars. I remember I was at a Ford event. It was up in Montreal, and it was an ice racing event in a place called Meccaglise. And Meccaglise was it's a really cool, like, a rally track. And we're driving Ford Focus RSs.
Nice.
And we're driving the Raptor that just came out.
Nice.
So we're driving that through basically what is a rally stage.
All right.
And there was a bunch of snow and ice and stuff. It was cool.
Sounds like my idea of a good time.
Yeah, it's a great time. But this was one of those things where they were like, well, we also have dog sledding, we also have ice sculpting, we have this, we can make s'mores. And then I just asked him, instead of all that, like, can I just have more seat time in the car? Like, because that's sort of why I'm here. Like, I'm not here to. I don't. It's nice that you're doing all this. Like, the hotel room is like super sweet, but like I don't care. Like, it just give me a place to sleep, and then I'm here to review the car. That's what I'm interested in.
Right.
But some people don't think that way. So I think the second where I start going, how nice is the hotel? Maybe I'll think about it. Like,
right.
That's when things start going downhill.
Uncompromising journalism.
Yeah, exactly. It's like Electrek. Do you hear about that?
Electrek?
Yeah. So Electrek is a publication for EVs.
Oh, I'm very familiar with Electrek.
Okay. So
I only worked for Tesla for nearly 2 years.
Right. So you know what's going on between
yes,
those.
Yes, I do.
Yes. So for those of you who don't know what's going on with Electrek, right before we wrap up, I want to throw a wrench in one of their gears because it's just awful.
Well, they don't really have any gears in an electric car.
Oh, that's that's very true.
Want to drain their batteries.
Yeah, we're going to drain their batteries. We're just going to unplug.
Yeah, unplug.
Yeah. We're just going to leave the lights on. So Electrek, apparently they think, I think the owner, I'm not saying anything bad about anybody else, but the people behind it that know what they're doing. Mm-hmm. So they poise themselves as the authority on EVs and EV news and all that stuff, and they want to be like journalists. Meaning that when you profess yourself as a journalist, you're not going to be objective because the objectivity doesn't exist. Right. Because you're human. There's different experiences, whatever. But when you're a journalist, you have to disclose your biases. It's very important that you say, I have an affinity towards this. This is my background, full disclosure. This company was paying me to do this, or this company sent me out to do this. Like, that's one thing I really learned from my time at Jalopnik. I always thought that journalism was like, oh, you have to be objective and just tell the facts. Like, no, you can be, you're going to be inherently biased, but you just have to let everybody know what those biases are so they can take that into consideration and you can give them the necessary perspective, right? Electric, what they do is they profess themselves as a journalistic, they have journalistic integrity, but at the same time, they are actively making money from Tesla.
Yes.
So they have codes where they have like affiliate links with Tesla, and they've sold like a bunch of cars. So if somebody buys a car online through their site, they make some money.
I don't know if they make money.
Yeah, electric.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, well, okay. So I'm that might not. I'm not sure if they make money or if it's something else.
So
I think it's money.
The affiliate links. So let's say I have a Tesla.
Okay.
And you're thinking about getting a Tesla.
Okay.
And I convince you to get a Tesla. And I say, hey, use my affiliate link. Use my owner code. And then you get $1,000 off the price of the car.
Right.
And I get things.
Yeah.
So you had different levels, and every month they had competition. So 1 month you get the most referral codes. You get a limited edition red Powerwall signed by Elon Musk. Or you get a full-size blow-up doll of Elon Musk standing next to the Roadster on top of a rocket. Or one month the competition was like, hey, you get the most referral links. You get a rare set of these factory wheels from Tesla called the Arachnid wheels, which are kind of cool actually.
Yeah, but that has the thing is, if you're a business, I'm pretty sure you can finagle your way into saying, "Can you just give me the monetary amount or whatever this is?"
No.
So
this was specifically for owners.
No, I'm not saying the owners. I'm saying this as a business. Business. Again, this could be the deal where they just get free stuff, free swag.
That might be, but
because
they were benefiting from the codes in one way or
right. So even that has monetary value. You can then go and sell that to somebody.
Right.
And it's in any case. I understand that manufacturers do want to give out stuff to press, right? Like I just said about Michelin. When car companies give press cars to journalists, that is essentially equipment rental. Okay, so you're renting a brand new car. Sometimes these cars are very, very expensive. That costs money. Most people, if you're driving a McLaren across Europe, that will cost you some money.
Yeah,
it didn't cost me any money, right? So that all, and also the plane tickets. I mean, I remember I actually accidentally saw the invoice from when I flew from New York to Germany on the Porsche trip. It was $8,000. It's $8,000 for business class tickets round trip, and that's just to get me there. And that's not including the hotels. That's not including the gas. It's not including all the stuff. They most likely spent, there's a bunch of journalists there. They most likely spent 10 plus grand to get me there. So that all costs money. But the thing is that has to be disclosed. And when it's not disclosed, then you're like, yeah, we have journalistic integrity. But then again, on the back end, it was like, let me get those Tesla wheels. Let me get those limited edition wheels. I really want those things.
Yeah.
So that's the issue that I have with journalists like that. I will get more into how to start becoming a journalist, how to become a YouTuber. I think we both have some insight into that. You've worked with a lot of YouTube channels, and and how to make yourself more or less known, or just market yourself in general, because you're really big on branding. I want to hear what you have to say about that. But I think we're good.
All right.
You're very agreeable today, Andrew. You're very agreeable. Like, you know what? We're not. We're not.
No, we're not.
I'm not done because okay. So if you guys have any questions, we're not fielding any questions this week. So tomorrow's episode, you're not going to see any questions. But the next week, we're gonna start taking questions. Hopefully, if not, then our timing is all messed up, and we'll do it the next week. But send us your questions. You can reach me at asktavarish@gmail.com. I read every single email, and I enjoy the conversations I have with you guys there, even though I might not reply because, let's be honest, there's a lot of emails. So you can also get at me at The Real Tavarish. That's Instagram and Twitter. And Andrew can be found at
1565. That's the word 15 and the number 65 on Twitter, and Heavy Metal FL on Instagram.
That is your voice is just so sultry right
You
now.
know what? Don't worry about it. For Freddie Hernandez, this is Andrew Howell. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to wrench every day.